Hi, this is Josh Silverbauer from Grew and Bleen, and today I want to tell you about an awesome new Chrome extension called GTM dataLayer Sifter. We just launched this extension to help analysts find different variables on a page and different elements on a page in relationship to certain events. What this means is finding form fields values, dynamic values when people submit a form, or a drop down when people click an additional or a different button, finding the data that a user selects or inputs in relationship to those events. And we want to show you how it works. So head on over to GTM dataLayer Sifter in the Chrome store if you want to follow along, or you can just click this link right here and download it and follow along with us. So to show you how this works, I want to bring you to the Grew and Bleen website. So head on over to www.grewandbleen.com and click on the contact button. We're going to be using this page to show an example of how to track something with GTM dataLayer Sifter. So for this tutorial, we are going to be trying to track this message box. And just a reminder as we're doing this that Google Analytics has a PII policy. So you're not allowed to send into Google Analytics any personal identifying information. So no email addresses, no phone numbers, no names. If you want to see a full policy of the things you're not allowed to track, you can click here. But for this tutorial, we are not going to be sending any of that information in, so it's totally fine. And the amount of stuff that you can track in Google Analytics, this opens up a completely new world. So we are going to be using this message box, and we're going to track the dynamic data in Google Tag Manager and send that information into Google Analytics, and we're going to use the GTM dataLayer Sifter. We're just going to type in anything here. Wow, look at this data we got here. Don't worry about grammar. That's not what this is about. So we want to track this data inside this message box, this field, in relationship to when people click this "let's do this," because that's basically, an indication that people are filling out this form. And you can do this on a successful form submit, or you can do this on the click. And for this one, we are just going to do this on the click. Okay. And before we even get started with the dataLayer Sifter, we want to head into Google Tag Manager and make sure that we have an all click trigger, just so that we have this data available to us in the data layer. So we're going to create a basic click trigger, and you do that by picking a trigger, a click element, and you want to make it all elements, and you want to fire it on all clicks. And this will allow every time you click on a website, it'll send an event to Google Tag Manager that there has been a click. And then you can look within that element, that click element, that event, and see all of the different variables within the data layer of that specific event. This is how we're going to basically be finding this information. So inside the website, we are going to click the button and we're going to look for this data. Okay, so we have this click and we're going to look inside this console. So we're going to pull up either the dev tools, or you can just click this inspect and it'll pull up your console. And we are going to type into the Google Dev console. We are going to type in data layer. Okay, we have all these objects because I've been clicking all over the page, but the one we are the most concerned about is this object, okay? And this is how we used to have to do it. We had to go into this element and we would have to go through this entire list and find exactly where this stuff was, and it was all crazy, and you would find this path and you figure out, oh, where is the data that I need? Because I know it's in here somewhere, but to find it is a waste of time and energy, and it's a pain. So what we're going to show you is how to use GTM dataLayer Sifter to find this information extremely easily, and how to use it in Google Tag Manager. Fundamentally, once you were to find this information within the click or in the object itself, you would need to then memorize the path, okay, or write down the path to where this information existed. If we were doing it the old-fashioned way, we would have to go into the element. So it would be like GTM dot element, and we would have to use dot notation to then go and find this. So we would go GTM dot element dot form, and then within form, we would have to go down to here. Looks like the text message dot 10. And then within there, we would need to find the value or the selected or whatever. Yep, there it is, dot value. And we would have to then take that down and put that into Google Tag Manager, that path, and it would then be able to find that data. That's time consuming. You have to, find the path and waste time by trying to find it. So we developed this tool, GTM dataLayer Sifter, where you can super easily find it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Elements tab, and this is we're going to go into this GTM dataLayer Sifter tab, and it's going to look a little similar to how GTM is set up. If you are used to the preview and debug mode, it's kind of combining what you see in the console with what you see in the GTM interface. So we're going to do this again. We're going to click this button just so that we have it as the last event that we did. And we're going to find it in here, and here it is, okay? The context submit, the click is the context submit hero call to action button, and we want to find what's in this box and the path to it. So we're just going to use our select element that you would use normally if you're inspecting an element, and we're just going to highlight the box. And there's the entire path to the value in dot notation right there for you. You can verify that it's correct by seeing this matches what we inputted. So we are going to copy this path. Now, the reason we have a path to the value and a path to the text is the path to the value, even though it should a lot of times be the text, oftentimes if the developer set up the website with like a database, it might be inputting numbers that represent text instead of actual text. So this is just to help an analyst find both of those paths so that they don't have to create a lookup table later when they can't find it. Okay, so we're going to take the path to the value, and we're going to head on over to Google Tag Manager, and we are going to create a user-defined data layer variable. We're going to call this, so that it doesn't get confused with the other ones that we created, we're going to call this tutorial data layer variable GTM Sifter. Okay. We are just going to literally copy and paste what we just found from GTM dataLayer Sifter into here. Okay, now we have saved that. Okay, so now we have the tutorial data layer variable, and we are going to refresh, and we're going to reload the page. And we're gonna show you now where to look to make sure that this is working in Google Tag Manager. So we don't really need the console anymore because we've already found where the path is. So we're reloading the page, and we are going to input a different text just so that you can, see that this is working correctly. So we're going to put in, what's the text look like now? We're going to click this button again, and we have a new click event. And we're going to look at our variables, and we're going to go down to tutorial, and we have exactly what we typed in, which is, what's the text look like now? And that text is in Google Tag Manager now as a variable, and now we can use that to send it to Google Analytics. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Google Tag Manager, and we're going to create a tag. And that tag is going to be called, we're going to call this tutorial tag. And we're going to put in our tracking ID, which, you can put in whatever your tracking ID is. This is the Universal Analytics tracking ID. And we want to create an event with this. Okay. So this is going to be, let's do this click. This is going to be message box. And the label is going to be the variable that we just created. So we're going to pull in this tutorial data layer variable, and that'll be the label. And you can really use this however you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that button click as a trigger. So we do know in here that we did click, and if you don't know how to make triggers yet, that's totally cool. We will provide a couple of documentations on our blog on how to create triggers. You can click right here to see, but we will be using for now this click class as a trigger. So we're just going to create a new trigger. And if you already are a genius at creating triggers, that's awesome. So good for you. But for the sake of teaching, we're just going to go through it. So we're going to call this, let's do this click. And I'm going really fast, so I apologize if you're like watching this and you're like, hey, you didn't do something right. Just let me know in the comment section. Tear me apart. All right, so we are putting the click classes contains this, and we're going to save it. We are going to save this tag, and now that we have this new tag, we're going to refresh, and we're going to refresh the page again, and we're just going to verify that this is actually working correctly and that information is going into Google Analytics. Okay, so now we reloaded the page, and we're going to type in one more set of dynamic data. So let's just call it dynamic data rocks. Woohoo! All right, and we're going to do this click. We're going to do the click and the tutorial tag fired. And we just want to go in here and verify that it's sending the right information. So it is. Look, our event category is let's do this form click. We have the message box and the dynamic data rocks. Woohoo! And we're just going to head over to analytics and make sure that this information actually did send. So we're going to go into our dev analytics. And we are going to go into our real-time events just to make sure that everything is firing. And we do see it in our real-time events. We see the let's do this form click, the message box, and the dynamic data rocks. Woohoo! All right, so that is basically how to use GTM data layer sifter to find a field value. You can also do this with drop downs super easily. This actually even works with checkboxes and radio buttons. There's a little bit of a trick to use it with that, but we will explain that in our next video. So for now, you can go over to GTM dataLayer Sifter, search it on Google or on the Chrome store, or click this link below. And also for additional information, you can click on the other link that we provided below, which is our blog, which basically is this video, except all written out step by step so that you can follow along if you didn't get everything on this tutorial. And that is pretty much it. And I hope you have a lot of fun tracking all the data in the world on your website. All right, great. Thanks for joining. Again, this is Josh Silverbauer from Grew and Bleen.